Welcome back to part two, everybody. Carrying on our competition between Stoke Poges, Queensland, and Westville. Good luck in the second half, everybody, and I hope all the clubs are doing well. Let's get on with the judging. Yeah, very much another point on a UK shot, this one. And you kind of guess some of the subjects. Nice wide angle lens, Mr. Mo Farah, charging round a bend by the look of it. Interesting to see nobody there. You would think with him in the frame, you'd have a huge crowd of people, but you've obviously picked your spot. Looking at the HSBC building, it's obviously Docklands, and we've got some real wide angle distortion going on here. Those buildings don't look like that at all. But you know what? I'm kind of okay with it. It's a lot of fun. It works very well. The bright colours on him attract you downwards, and I can absolutely see why you've included both elements. You know, just of him might have not been quite so at a moment or in a place. So I think that does work quite well. It is really surreal having nobody there cheering and watching though, which is really strange. But I think it does work very, very well. Um, just a little bright here and there, and a little bit flat maybe. Just knocks those last couple of points off. So a full 18. Yeah, very similar to our shot earlier, but I think you've really got this at the critical moment. I'm assuming flash, a set-up kind of shot, a civet or something maybe, a beautiful creature anyway. Lovely exposure, really works well, beautiful sharpness, lovely catch light in both eyes, and that tongue in the water I think just works perfectly. So this one I think is a more successful shot than the other one. The eye just really puts people off, and I felt very uncomfortable about it, but I think this has come out much more powerfully, and this one is a 20. Well done. Yeah, interesting one. Interesting one. Yeah, this doing it at home thing. I guess there's going to be an awful lot of doing it at home photography for the coming couple of months, given the current world situation, which is always challenging. Um, yeah, I think having the little Playmobil or Lego guys working on the eggs, I think does come across quite strongly. Um, Lots of Photoshop gone on here by the look of it. Putting the filter and the treatment on the top, I think, was a good idea. I think the only challenge for me is the exposure isn't quite right on the eggs, and you've got time to play with it, and they're not going to run away anytime. And I just feel that any kind of where this much is under your control, then we are looking to get the lighting perfect. Not quite sure we needed so much over on the right hand side either. I think a tighter crop would have been fine. There's nothing over here that adds to the image, so not quite there. And given that you had time to set it up and everything else, I do feel we want something with a bit more quality. But I am enjoying seeing the spill of the light from the lamp. I think that was well seen. 17. Yeah, what a beautiful location. Lovely, lovely detail in the sand, beautiful orange colours offset by our warm blue, or cold blue, I should say, of the our person walking into the frame. Really enjoying the shadow. I think that works really, really well. Not sure what the shadow is over here. Shame, kind of a little bit distracting, and I think unfortunately for you, I would have liked to have seen the highlights here. I just think it's just a bit too bright and a bit too blown out, and that's such a shame because it does work very, very well. I might have played with the blue in the sky myself just to richen it up a little bit. I think the blue here versus the blue there might have really, really helped. But you could have just cropped into this, and maybe that would have given us a powerful composition as well. But I do like the inclusion of the sky. I think overall on balance it probably is the right thing to do. But I just would have richened up the blue in the sky a bit more. And yeah, just such a shame of those highlights, really, because it is such an evocative and beautiful shot otherwise. But because they're on your main subject, I think it's critical, and for me, it's kind of ruined the shot. 16. Yeah, beautiful creature. Was it in a hide? Was it natural? Do we care? Beautifully diffuse water. Um, Creature just touching or lifting its foot out. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better location for that foot. I think it works very well. The background is sublime. It's beautiful and sharp in the eye. There are a few little highlighty areas that are a bit, but I think we have to give you the benefit of the doubt. The beauty of the capture is just outstanding, and I do think that moment of pressing the shutter was about as perfect as you could get, and I think that works really well. Egrets are always delightful, and I think you nailed it, as they say. 20, well done. Um, yeah, an unusual one, this one, and a strange one. It really kind of is a bit of a picture of two halves, really. It's a beautiful backdrop and a beautiful set. Nice blue sky in the background, which is nice to see, and our lovely bluebells creating some colour, in our foreground. I think all of that works. Um, I do sort of feel, and it's always judges always say it, and the author's probably going to be cursing the judge. This is like a beautiful film set waiting for an actor, and I do feel to really lift it up and add something else. It really does need another factor, a dog walker or something in this walking along the path to bring scale, etc. When I look at the balance of the image, this area here on our right hand side is very strong and powerful, and I do wonder whether we really needed it. I wonder if a crop here would have still given us a stop on this tree, but would have just maybe meant that this was a little bit less 50-50 and a little bit more 70-30 would have just helped with the composition. And the reason I say that is because this tree as well, because it's leaning over to the left, as are all these elements, I kind of feel like the image is sort of leaning left. But then I look over here and think, no, they're straight. But which one is correct? And it just, yeah, these lean left as well. It just, I think balancing those up together, maybe just a twist, would have really helped you. So this one's not there for me. 16. Nice and up close, beautiful depth of field, lovely detail in all of the features in the face. And I think all that comes across quite well. The background is quite diffuse, but I would have darkened that down. Just, knock these down a little bit, because, being on a bright screen, they do come out quite powerfully and strongly. And it wouldn't take much to just ease them down, even half a stop, just to really, finish this image off. But I think it does work very, very powerfully. Especially this area here, I think it's just too bright, and this one here. But nonetheless, a very strong and powerful macro. Face in a nice position, not too tight. It would have been nice licking an eye or poking out a tongue or something just to lift it. But still very technically well delivered. 18. Yeah, wildebeest, could be anyone, of course. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Africa Club. Enough people spend their lives flitting backwards and forwards. Could be anywhere. Beautiful composition. I do wonder myself, would I take off just a little bit of this to put that tree on 1/3, rather than to give equal spacing? I'm holding my hand up and covering it up, and I do wonder, might that have been interesting? The dust and the smoke, I think, works very, very well. It's certainly got plenty of power and tells a story of this wildebeest migration. I just Would I have warmed this up? A little bit of additional warmth would have just really given us a shot where we felt that it was early morning, or just brought a bit more life into it. But I'm picking holes in something that we all know we'd love to have shot ourselves, and I think it does work very, very well. The creatures themselves are a little bit silhouette-y, but there's just enough detail in there that I think it works okay. And yeah, very, very powerful. There are lots of them, and they do clump in places. But some of the compositions here, where we've got three and possibly one in the background there, I think have come across quite strongly. Um, yeah, I think it has to be. Yeah, we'll have another 20. Very, very powerful image, and well delivered. Yeah, County Hall, a really funky shape. Nice to see that we've used the steps as a leading line and brought us into it. Not too strong highlights here, a little bit. Monochrome has taken us back to shape and form. Little bit bright and highlighty in the sky over on the left-hand side there, and yeah, an interesting composition. You've obviously leaned your camera upwards because our whole building is sort of leaning over to the right. The verticals aren't necessarily vertical anymore, and I do think it does give it a bit of an unusual and a strange feel. Monochrome's a good choice though. It does take it back to shape and form, which is what we're really looking for here. But I do think just the angle is just a bit too tight and a bit too leaning back for me, and these bright areas in the sky not quite there. 16. Um, it's a difficult one. This one. On the run through, I looked at it and thought, wow. And in some ways, the weather and the clouds are really powerful and strong. But I also feel this has been edited or changed somehow. It just comes across. Maybe it's because there's too much contrast in it that I'm struggling to find an area that I really want to look at. Maybe it's because you've given us too much of the reflection, and cropping it across here. We didn't need all of it. Would have just given us a bit more of a balanced composition. This cloud here is so powerful and strong, and there's some sort of strange artifacts happening up here. The green here is really electric, and so I wanted to love this. And when I saw it, I wanted to be, really get involved in it. But I just think maybe it's the processing or the way that it's been delivered just takes away, and I'm losing what should be this beautiful little village as the strong bit. Maybe there's a composition in here that brings that to the fore, because all these areas at the bottom here just are too powerful and too strong. 15 for me, I'm afraid. Yeah. You can't beat a dog, can you? These seem to do very well. A Photoshop background, a dog catching a biscuit. It's all very powerful. You see lots of them in the English BPEs and in the international FIAPs. And it's quite strong and powerful. The detail in the dog is all there. The shutter speed you've used is fast enough to freeze our creature, and he's come across quite nicely. Lots and lots of detail. Was that the best place to get the biscuit? It sort of clashes with the eye. I sort of want it to be here or here somewhere. It's maybe you need to improve your throwing, but the rest of it works very, very well. Would I have used a slightly darker background to pop our dog out? I know the tones sort of tie together with this pinkness, but a bit more grey and would have just given us a bit more separation. With the dog, but still a very powerful image, isn't it? Lots of fun, just not quite as good as it could be, I think. But still strong. 18. Yeah, Mr. Chess Player. Lots of concentration there. Head down, not engaged with us. I think that works reasonably well. I think for me, the area that I'm challenged with a little bit is the depth of field. I look at this, I want to see the chess set a little bit more in focus than it is. I know his watch is out of focus, but it's in that sort of same plane, isn't it? And therefore I'm sort of surprised that we've got some depth of field, but maybe not here. And maybe the author blurred that out or something, I don't mind. I would have used a little bit of dodging and burning to concentrate us on where we need to go. So it's a reasonable shot. I think it works quite well, but I think the depth of field needed to be stronger, and it might have worked better in monochrome, to remove the skin tones and bring out some detail in the face, and the black and white would have come out a little bit stronger. So not quite there for me, but still, yeah, 16. Um, what a powerful image, isn't it? It hits you in the face when it comes up, but I'm not necessarily certain in a good way. The crunchy monochrome, as I would say, maybe you've tried to do that because it was the light was so harsh, and you can see from the hardness of the shadows just how strong that was. But it's come across. This almost looks like an interference pattern, and it just hasn't worked for me. I know some other judge is going to give this a 20 and say they love it, but for me it's just too overdone. This heavy black area with nothing in it is just too much, and too overwhelming, and this bright area just pulls you away. The inclusion of the three people is fantastic. They're in a great spot, but this just is too heavy for me, and I would have liked to have seen something a little more subtle than this. 14. Yeah, another macro. We've had a few, haven't we? A fly and an ant, I guess, interacting together. Unusual, different. Works quite strongly. Beautiful detail in the eye. Losing obviously the depth of field out the back. I think this works really well. Not sure what they're on. Some kind of plant, but yeah, all the little hairs and everything have come out really nicely. Exposure's put together very strongly, composition works well, filling the frame, etc. Yeah, and he's very powerful, just not quite there with some of the others though. 19, very strong. Um, Yeah, traditional sort of portrait. I guess same girl as we had earlier, given the piercings. Very different look and feel to this one, isn't it? Almost a picture frame background, which sort of makes me wonder, why did we need the white key line? It's very distracting. You've got this sort of almost like a picture frame around her. I don't think you needed the white. It doesn't work with any of the tones. It is kind of annoying and distracting. But hey, it is what it is. The lighting is very direct and very bright on her face. Her skin tones, you know, have kind of been bleached out a little bit. I'm sure, you know, with this red hair versus a slightly warmer skin tone would have helped. And here on the hands, where the lighting wasn't quite so strong, I think we can see what the skin tones should be like, and I think our lights were just a little bit too hot here. The pose is quite nice, the contemplation, the position of the hands is strong, the black outfit still has detail in it, which I think is quite powerful, but I just think unfortunately the lighting has just let you down on this one, which is a real shame. But the composition is strong, the background works well, the colour tones on that have been chosen well, I think, but just, yeah, too hot lighting. 17. Interesting doggy portrait, a little bit more static than the last one. You know, beautiful eyes, black background, sort of doesn't give us any detail of who or what or where. You know, multiple lights by the look of it. Is that a big window light you've used, or are there two big flash guns and one on the camera maybe to trigger it? I think for me that it's not as successful as our last one because our nose is out of focus. I think you really need to pick your point of where you're going to focus on this. They have such a long face. We really do need to see that in focus, as it's, you know, filling the frame with the black background. There's nothing else to see. I will pick out the white again. Please don't use white as ever as a key line. It is too big and too clunky, and a pale grey or similar would be much better. So this one doesn't work for me. I'm lacking the character of the dog, I think. Something with a bit more character really was needed, and depth of field not right. 16. Yeah, very well seen, well positioned. Beautiful composition with this lovely cold blue shapes. And I talked earlier about, water and long exposures. This one, I think, has really been helped by not too long, in that we can still see where all the water is running back into the sea. And I think that is really powerful and has really helped. I think the warmth in the sky up here is very nice, but there are some areas that are very suspect. And I do wonder whether you've added the orange afterwards. Maybe, maybe not. So I think it's lovely, but I think these just knock it back just that tiny little piece, unfortunately, which is a real shame. Yeah, it is a real shame because it is so nicely composed. But yeah, I've got to knock a point off for those, and I will. Yeah, 19. Um, yeah, macro on a flower, nice bee. Um, the pose maybe for this unfortunately isn't what we would like to see. I think the action is being hidden by our flower here. We have chosen a key line here that's a bit magenta, and whilst it's there, I'm not sure necessarily we needed it. I can see why up here, but it's a bit distracting. I think for me this, as you'll agree, it just isn't there from a quality perspective compared to the other macros we've seen tonight. We've got some really hot highlights here, and the pose just isn't quite as powerful. 15. Interesting silhouette. Is it the most interesting silhouette? Does it really kind of blow us away? I think we've got some speckling going on here, which may be noise. I think for me, the position of this person here is fine. I can see the shape of their face. I think the hand here works. But this person looking directly, maybe at us by the look of it, excuse me, just takes away some of the power. The brightness down here of the light kind of tends to draw your eye away from the main composition. So this one isn't there for me. It doesn't come out quite as well as I would like, and isn't as strong an image. You could have gone monochrome maybe, but I think you've tried to use the warmth of the backdrop to separate them out, but just not there for me. 15. Super sharp, frozen, absolutely very fast shutter speed, but still got some movement going on and some light coming through in the wheels. So yeah, I think that works very, very well. It's not so fast that we've got, no movement in the dust, but we do have a frozen bike wheel here, which I think I'm sort of okay with, given that the angle they're at. Judges are always a nightmare, aren't they? Wouldn't it have been nice if he'd have had a clear visor so we could have seen his eyes? But I'm joking. It's yeah, really nicely done. Beautiful lighting on it. None of the whites are suspect. Everything works very, very well. And this plume of dust, you can just imagine wouldn't want to be there. Do I mind the monster advertising? No, probably not. I think it's appropriate. Muddy Fox, Monster, it all kind of goes with that action sports. I just little small things like, would I have got rid of that or just finished the image there? It's not the end of the world, but I think it does work. Yeah, 19, really, really powerfully done. Beautiful piece of landscape work, hard, crunchy, beautifully sharp rocks, wonderful choice of shutter speed to give us these beautiful swirls in the water, really beautiful colours up in the sky, a little bit hot here and there, but not as much as we've seen on some. You've left the little green, whatever that is that's caught in the rocks, net or something. I'm okay with that. Personally, I think I would clone that out. It just becomes a little bit distracting. And the rest of it is so lovely, and just to have this beautiful gap of we follow the water all the way out, and then to have this island just there, I'm very jealous. I'd love to go and shoot this location. Really beautifully done, and that's a 20. Congratulations, lovely. Nice point of view of a well-known location. You've given us just enough to know what it is. The black background, He's not the best. It's okay. It's what you've chosen, and I think it does work. The strength of the building itself is what we're seeing here, and I think that comes out very strongly. Don't like the white key line again. I'm going to say that on everyone. Please don't use them. You know, pick the grey that you've got here and just do it as 1 pixel or something. It just is overwhelming. But still a strong composition. I do wonder, do we need this one? I wonder whether if we'd have come out here to have the three of them. Three's great. You know, if you go to a really fancy Jamie Oliver, hopefully everybody knows who Jamie Oliver is, restaurant, you know, or Ernie Els restaurant, you get three of everything, don't you? It's that, you know, our brains are wired that way. And I do wonder, maybe here would have been a better composition. So it works quite well. The black is a bit overwhelming, and compositionally, I think that the three peaks here would have been stronger on their own. But still technically very nicely done. 17. Yeah, interesting portrait. He is not engaged with us, looking off to the side. It's very closely cropped and powerful. I think that works very, very well. Bit grainy in the background, not quite monochrome, but I think that brings some additional atmosphere. White key line again. I'll stop mentioning it, but it bugs me. I think the skin tones maybe is where you're being let down a little bit. They're just a little bit too bright and a little bit too hot, which is a little bit of a shame, because I think it is a very strong character portrait, but just not quite there with some of the others. But still a 17. Yeah, interesting. Lots of different elements going on here. We've got the out of focus flower in the background with our little fruit circled perfectly within it. I think that works fine. The addition of the water drop, was it there? Did you add it afterwards? Would you do that as a photographer? Yeah, I would. I think it's come across quite nicely. It does echo and show us the flower. Was it in a studio? Was it done somewhere else? Really don't mind. The lighting is very flat, and I think maybe that's my only letdown with this. A little bit more of exciting lighting, and bringing maybe a little bit more of this out would have helped. So not quite there, but still quite strong. And this one did need a key line. 17. Yeah, a very convoluted and strong but confusing still life. The highlights are a little bit bright for me. You know, and the lighting a bit direct here and there, and then there are other areas that are not quite, and it does give you the feel of a, you know, 17th or 18th century painting, and maybe that's what our author was going for. And I know there's a story between oysters, walnuts, bread, lobster. I guess it looks like a rubber one. A book, a pipe, and so there's somebody famous in here, or some story that I'm not aware of. And sometimes we had a competition, and I haven't talked too much beyond the competition, where somebody said, that image was a little bit too clever for the judge. And I think this is probably one of those. It absolutely has huge meaning to the author, and for someone who's an art historian, maybe even more. But it's just a little bit beyond for me. But I can see what you're trying to achieve here, so you do get an extra point for that. But yeah, just not quite there for me from a lighting perspective. It's all just a bit too bright, and too dark in the other areas. 17. Wow. Yeah, coffee beans. Have they escaped? Is the grape escape, or the great escape? Yeah, you can see 1/3, 2/3. The green and the green, all very carefully thought out. Why green? Why this really powerful lime green? I almost would rather have seen white or something like that. And the challenge, of course, with white is that when it's projected, it could be a bit bright. But You know, it's well positioned, it's well thought through. I just think for me this lime green is a bit overpowering. Maybe a pale beige or something like that, or whatever, I think would have worked. You've probably done it to go with the green of the cup, but I like the position of the cup. I like the position of the handle. I like the three beans all not quite perfectly aligned. So there's a huge amount of thought gone into this. I just think the choice of colour here is just a bit overwhelming and dominates the picture. And a choice of something a little more subtle would have been a much better choice. But nonetheless, just for the composition and the thought alone, you get an extra point, so 18. Um, yeah, misty day, not a lot of light, long exposure. Um, Nice leading line into our beautiful iconic mountain, I guess. Does it give us maybe an impression of height from this and scale? I just think the lighting is just because of this mist has gone very grey and very drab, and you're lacking light. So even though it's an exotic location, I do wonder whether monochrome or something like that might give you a bit more power in there, or a bit of dehaze maybe, because it just lacks that little bit of sparkle, that little bit of something extra that we're really looking for in a landscape. 17, still nicely composed, so you get points for that. A little bit maybe not quite so sharp, but yeah, 17. Candid shot, setup shot. Do we mind? No. Interesting looking character, using window lighting. A little bit grey, maybe, and maybe that's because you're a bit warm in the face and you've tried to maybe just grey it up a little bit. But we do have some white in the shirt. Yeah, interesting with the smoking. That adds just that little bit of extra. Quite powerful, isn't it? Yeah, it's quite strong. It grows on you. They've obviously looked at you, engaged with you. The hand, you could say, maybe a little bit bright, competing with the face somewhat. But yeah, I think it does work. Just maybe just yeah, just the hands are just too big in comparison with the face. I know there's not a lot you can do with it, but they are competing a little bit. So I'm looking at the cigarette and his hands and not at the face. Um, yeah, interesting shadow, isn't it? Coming in from somewhere, because the lighting looks like it's on the left, but the shadow of the hand looks like it's on the right. Yeah, challenging. 18, well done. Yeah, another macro spider here with its prey. Uh, very powerful catch lights in the eyes, almost overwhelming. Depth of field, I think we could have done with a little bit more than we've got here. We've lost the depth of field very quickly, which is a little bit of a shame. Strong action shot, and I might have just desaturated the green a little bit. It's just a very powerful and bright up in the corners here, which does draw us away from our main creature, which is a little bit of a shame. But still a very strong, powerful image. But yeah, just those catch lights, just too much. 17. Yeah, interesting character. Um, Somewhere exotic, I guess, maybe. She's engaged with you. You've got a catch light in the eye. Amazing sort of skin tones, and the supporting tones around the image come together very well. The blue grey of her outfit with the blue grey of the stone. We are really concentrating on the face, aren't we? Do you know, you could really cheat, and maybe it depends how good you are at Photoshop. You could actually take that whole arm out, and we'd just assume it's behind. I just find it's a little bit distracting, but she certainly has got a very characterful face, hasn't she? I just think it's a bit flat. We needed a bit more light. It's a bit of a grab shot, and I think you've done it quite well. But we have had better today. So 17. And there we go. That was the last image. I'm not sure who's won. I think I'll leave that to be announced via email or whatever afterwards. I guess Chris will do that by from Stoke Poges. Just to say thank you all for sharing. I hope I've been cruel where I needed to be and kind where I needed to be. Thank you very much for bringing a wonderful set of images. I hope you enjoy the video as much as I enjoyed making it. Thank you for your time, and good luck everyone at this challenging time. Thank you.